Hello, this is Joshua Spodek, and welcome to the Leadership in the Environment column on Psychology Today. I'm here today with Dov Barron. Dov, how are you doing?
Good. I'm excited. Thank you.
Glad to have you here. And this column, Leadership in the Environment, and my podcast, Leadership in the Environment, cover leadership first and the environment second. I think that the environment is very important, but what's missing is leadership. And a lot of people think of the environment as recycling and things like that, but I think it's changing beliefs, changing stories, changing behavior. This is the domain of leadership, and I think that's what's missing. And that's why I bring great leaders to the environment. Many of whom don't have environmental background, don't have environmental experience or knowledge, but they bring something more valuable, which is leadership. So I've had guests like McKinsey's 3-time global managing director, a Super Bowl winner, Sir Ken Robinson, and these great, amazing guests. And of all of them, one has led himself the most in this process, and that's Dov. And listen to his episode on my podcast to hear what he's done, but it probably inspired me back more than anyone. And also, beyond that action on the podcast, he and I are friends, and we have just come off posting 3 episodes that he heard from me that I had something to share that I was uncomfortable sharing. And he said, it seemed to me out of the blue, Josh, I know what to do. I'm going to interview you on your podcast. And no one has ever suggested anything like that before. And it was a transformative experience for me. I mean, I am in the business of leadership coaching and leadership teaching and leading. I work with leadership coaches, teachers, and leaders. And he opened me up and enabled me to share things that I'd wanted to share for years, but was not able to. And so Dov, he not only leads, he coaches, he teaches, and he does some magic. And I wanted to bring that here to the Leadership in the Environment column. So first, did I leave anything out there?
Probably, I don't know, but I am very grateful for that generous and gracious introduction. Thank you so much.
I wish I could say I was flattering you. I was really just sharing that it was new experiences in an area that I feel I have a certain level of experience and mastery in. I want to start with, and I'm going to ask you questions about me, but I think what will come out is who you are and where you come from. And I'm going to start with, how did you prepare for our conversations? Because it made me feel very comfortable. And what went into that? Is that did you prepare for me as you prepare for a regular client? I'm not sure.
It's a good question. I had a conversation with another high-level individual that I work with, who's a client of mine, this morning, and we were talking about the difference between earned and learned. And learned is, you read enough books and you learned it. Earned it is when you go through the blisters, right? And then when you go through the blisters, there's a place that we call intuition that's not intuitive in the random sense, but is intuitive in the deeply inlaid knowledge from the blisters, from the experience of. And so, as you know, obviously I have a big background in leadership, in psychology, and in really being able to read people, not in a psychic way, but being able to see what it is that's there. And so very quickly, I know if I want to be bothered with somebody or I don't want to be bothered with them. And as you said, we become friends because you've been open with me. And so the prep is every conversation we had before that one. That is the prep. So it's not me writing a few notes down. It's more like, okay, I saw this. I paid attention to that. And as another client of mine who is one of the top branders in the world said to me the day before yesterday, he goes, I can't believe I tell you these things. You're so damn disarming. And I said, well, if you met me, would you think I was disarming? He goes, no, that's why it's disarming, because you look like you're not, but you are. So he said it's weird. So the prep is in the willingness to have rapport, in the willingness to be, as you know, one of my themes, to be deeply curious about that other human being from a place of curiosity, not judgment. And there's a distinction that most people don't get. They think asking a question is curiosity. It's not, because oftentimes a question is leading to an answer. A curiosity is leading to understand.
And are you describing technique that you developed over time, or is this like how you've operated since you were a kid and you don't really think about it? Or is this like and if it's technique, did you develop it from theory, from practice?
So yes and yes. So it is definitely something I had as a child. I drove my mother and everybody else mad with it because I was always asking questions. It's what made me not fit in where I was from, because I didn't understand why people thought the way they thought in the environment I was from. As you know, I was born in abject poverty in a ghetto in northern England, and left the country more than 40 years ago to travel and study, because I didn't understand why people thought they wanted the way they thought. And I was always deeply curious about what drives human beings. As the years have gone by, I would say, I mean, obviously I've studied many different schools of psychology, but I would say without a doubt, the Jungian Campbell side of it, which is the heroic journey side of it, the deep journey within, has given me the skill sets to know where to go. So what I always say is, people give you glimmers into their darkness and glimmers into their dragonfire, into their bright light. And I want to see both. And I will notice it, because you can't help but let it release. You're not trying to hold it back consciously oftentimes, but you're also trying not to release it. And my skill is, what I've learned is how to see it in both. So that's why when people say to me, I'm already super successful. How did you see that in me? I don't understand. I've been to therapists. I've had coaches. How come you could see that? Because I'm being deeply curious for both that darkness and that shine.
Yeah, it's funny. I've listened to the editing process means that I've listened to our conversations many times, and it felt like there was a lot of structure there, and it made me wonder, how much did he know what to expect, and how much of it was a surprise, and how much did you know where it was going to go? Did you know, maybe not specifically what I would say, but the type of sorts of things I would say, or
Yes.
were you winging it the whole time?
Well, the answer is yes and yes. Yes, I'm winging it, but again, it's that context of intuition being from the blisters, meaning it's deeply embedded knowledge. So yes, I'm quote winging it, because it's a bespoke process. The people who work with me will always say, well, what is your process? It's bespoke. It will depend entirely on you, and it will be directed by you without you knowing that that's what's happening. Is there a structure? Yes, I understand the identity of an individual, which is not real, but all of us have identity, which is a dominant identity. We have sub-identities. Underneath that, we have belief systems, paradigms that have been built on those belief systems, and then from there, what is in the shadows and what is in the light. So I'm always working through those processes.
Do you remember what you're thinking when you were talking to me? Any of the things that you picked up on, or things that you noticed?
Well, as you know, we do video, and the reason for that is because I'm looking for micro cues, so that not you, but any of us don't have any control over. So, somebody is speaking to me and suddenly they go, like they lift their shoulders, like there's no control of that, but that tells me something. There's a twitch to the neck, and that's different than crunching your neck, right? There's a brushing of the ear, or a brushing of the neck, or brushing of the eye. All those things are normal and okay. And it's not the simple body language stuff like this, oh, you crossed your arms so you closed off. Well, that's not true. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, I cross my arms because it actually stretches my neck, and I'll go and crack my neck, and then I put my arms down again. So it doesn't always mean that. So there are subtleties within the broad band of understanding of physiology and what that is. Then there's vocal tonality, and I'm listening to that, because the cadence and the depth will change depending on where the person's coming from. The micro expressions in the dilation of a pupil, how fast the heart beats based on the vein in the neck, that you have no control over. I'm paying attention to all those things. while really staying focused.
I'm hearing a lot of blisters. That doesn't sound like the sort of thing you can read about. It feels like that's can only come through experience, lots of experience.
Yeah, and again, it starts with learning and goes to earning. So you have to decide, okay, I want to learn this. You know this, Josh. I mean, there's so many things. You're such a brilliant man in so many different areas. There are things you decided to learn, and you picked up the books and you studied and you buried yourself and you got committed to learning that. But the practicality of it is, what are you going to do with it? Okay. And that's when you go from learn to earn. That's when you go, okay, now I got to take this theory and walk it out. We've all seen the movie Good Will Hunting, and that amazing scene in the bar where the guy is talking about economics and the lead character shoots him down and says, you're only saying that because you studied it in first year. And he says, no, because and he gives him another. He goes, you're only saying that because you're in third year of university, where there's a counter argument. What, do you have any original thoughts? That's the difference between learned and earned. Learned makes you look smart. Earned makes you smart. You don't look, you are. I'll fully own when I don't know. And you can only do that when you're in a place of earned. I have no idea what this is. Don't understand. Don't know where to go. Can't help you. Right? You know, if you want to understand the mathematics of quantum physics, I'm not your guy. You want to understand quantum physics, I can explain it to you in a way you're probably never going to understand, never heard it before, in a way that will make perfect sense to you, because I deeply studied it, but I struggled enormously with the math. But I understand it in a way that most of the mathematicians who are my friends go, oh my God, you really get it. Yeah, but I couldn't tell you the equations.
Now you're distracting me because I do want to follow up on that, but I'll leave that for later. I mean, what's driving my curiosity is that the things that we talked about were very deeply personal. Mm-hmm. And I showed things that I have been sharing with very close friends for years. Mm-hmm. And only looking back did I realize I'd been practicing how to share these things, not just with close friends, but publicly. Yeah. I shared some about them with you, and you said, I'm going to interview you on your podcast. To go from sharing with close personal friends, definitely that loosened me up. Had I not spoken to them first, I probably wouldn't have been able to at all to others. But I was speaking in a venue that I intend to promote and get really big. And I remember at the beginning thinking, where's he going with this? He's going in a direction that was like the beginning of the first episode. I was like, this isn't where I wanted to go. And then when I started talking about stuff, it looked to me like you were building a foundation of things, like you were going deep before going high, building a tall structure. And so I felt a comfort. Yes. I felt support. Yeah. That even with my close friends, while I did feel comfort and support from them, it wasn't at the level with you. And I don't know why you're thanking me. You should say you're welcome. I mean, I really want to thank you for that. And so that's what I want to get. I guess a question I have for you is, what do you, when you coach someone, what are you doing in your heart, in your mind? I mean, you're being curious, you're learning about them. Are you, what in your heart are you doing, if that makes sense?
It does to me. So as you know, my moniker is Dov Baron the Dragonist, and I'm looking for the dragonfire. And so people say, well, is that your passion? No, passion is transitory. Everything we are passionate about, it evolves, it changes, it's different. Things I was passionate about in my 20s were not the same in my 30s, 40s, or even 50s. It's just not. So passion is transitory. I'm looking for your dragonfire, which is not Simon Sinek's your why, although that's great. It's the why of your why of your why. It's multiple levels deep. That's what I'm always looking for. What's underneath that? What's underneath that? What's underneath that? That's where I'm going to find the foundation. Now, when people say, well, how do you find that? Do I look at my passion? No, passion's nice. It's great, but that's not where we're looking. We go, well, what then? And I say, if you really want to find your dragonfire is hidden behind your pain. And your pain is hidden from you, Because you hide it from the world. How do I know? Because you wear it in a coat of shame. When we confront shame, we get to pain. When we confront pain, we get access to the dragon fire, which is the thing that moves you through the world. That is a double-edged sword, that if we don't deal with it, it becomes a weapon we use on other people. And when we do use it, it becomes this bright fire in the world that allows us to take flight and be magnificent in the world. But if we're not careful, if we use it the other way, we use it to damage other people and we use it to hide. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, what you just is the way you just put it. I mean, before we hit record, you asked me how things going, and I've just put up the first 2 of the 3 episodes that we did. I'm about to post the 3rd, and I was talking about this is just opening up things that I never opened up before about, and it's leading to all opening up in whole other areas, connections with family that I hadn't connected with before. I mean, I'm connecting in ways that were new for me.
Sure.
And if I'd heard you say this before, I'd be like, yeah, dragon. Well, not quite as jaded as that.
Sure.
But yeah, I think of all the times that I've heard someone open up about something that they were vulnerable about before. And I would think, why don't you just share? It's not that big of a deal. We all have things like this. Not noticing behind my coat of shame. And it was really shame. And I'm like, why? Looking back now, there's not a lot for me to be ashamed of, but until you speak it, you don't even know it's there. I didn't even know it was there.
No, and it's what we talked about with Joseph Campbell's work about entering the cave. So the treasure you seek is hidden in the cave you are fearful of entering. And so I walk you, in that case, or I walk my clients into the cave. I walk you into there because in there you can take me, the dragonist, with you to find your dragon fire, because we can defeat your demons in there. And people say, oh, that's an interesting metaphor. Think about what a dragon is. When a dragon enters, it is magnificent. It is powerful. It has giant wings. It has authority. It has power. It has certainty. It breathes fire onto the lies. It burns down the lies. But the front scale of a dragon, if you look at the mythology, is actually soft. Over the heart, it is soft. The place you can kill a dragon is right in the front. So it breathes fire, it has enormity, but it has softness and compassion. It wants that. When we think about demons, demons are what pull us down. Every Renaissance painting is this demon that's trying to pull us down, right? So this is a way to face those demons with the dragon fire and remove them.
I can't help but ask, and you must have discovered this sounds like your dragon fire. And I presume that it emerged to you through a similar process did someone walk you through is this your passion? Is this your dragon fire to help others find theirs?
It is.
If so, did someone walk you through it? Did you discover it yourself?
Blisters.
How did you open up your cloak of shame, if I'm using the terminology right?
Blisters. I was talking to a friend this morning, and we were talking about that quote from Joseph Campbell, where people say, follow your bliss. And we talked about how that's a really nice saying. It's very, it's a nice package. And people, oh, yeah, I want to follow my bliss. But it's not what he says. What he actually says is, follow your blisters to your bliss. That's earned, not learned. Follow your blisters to your bliss. So for me, I had studied psychology. I'd studied metaphysical studies. I even studied some quantum physics stuff at that time. And then in 1990, as you know, I was very successful, doing very well in the world. And I was an adrenaline junkie, and I fell 120 feet while free climbing, got smashed to pieces. The recovery process of that, of course, physically was extremely painful and challenging. But what was far more challenging was the emotional, mental recovery, which included very dark depression, suicidation, that came in waves for quite some time after that. I mean, it was a very, very dark time. And in that process, that was where that journey began. I began to realize that If anybody described me before, they would have said, you're extremely passionate. They did. The people would say, you're a very passionate guy. And I always felt like something was missing. Yeah, that wasn't it. I felt like something was hiding. And so I actually journaled all the time. What am I hiding from myself? What am I hiding from myself? And I would look into that. And I would ask my friends, what do you think I don't reveal? What do you think, what is it you can't say to me that you think I'm going to take offense at? And I would ask horrible questions. I mean, questions that would like people go, oh my God, don't ask that. I want to know, what is it that pisses you off about me? What is it that annoys you? Doesn't mean I'm going to remove them, because some of those things might be great. And it was looking into that dark place of facing my own darkness, of finding my own darkness, looking into that places of shame, the behaviors I had that were just, oh my goodness, I want to cover my face and hide away from. That was where my power was. Because as I said, your dragonfire is a double-edged sword. If I've done these shitty behaviors, there's a damn good reason. What's the damn good reason for my crappy behaviors? So I come from the assumption that everybody is good. They do shitty things for damn good reasons in order to feel better. So what is that better that they're trying to feel? If I can get to that, which is what my process is that you experienced, if I can get to that, then I can discover what motivated that force. Then they feel free to reveal that, and then they get to see it from a completely different place, which is what happened with you.
Yeah. Okay. You've worked with a lot of people, me being one of them briefly. And I don't care if this sounds vain or not. You've worked with some top leaders, world-renowned people. I'm sure you've worked with a lot of people struggling in various different ways. How did I compare with them?
I don't know what that means.
What was it? Now I got to ask a more detailed question. The magnitude of the change, the depth of the revelation, or are they all incomparable?
It's incredibly different and exactly the same. What I mean by that is, one of my quotes is that courage is subjective, and so is cowardice. So what I mean by that is, if you were here and you were looking at my desktop on my computer, you'd see that it's full most of the time. It takes enormous courage and commitment and dedication for me to clean it up. Other people are like, why don't you just do it? I understand that, because what's easy for one person is not easy for another. Courage is subjective. I stand, and we stand on stages and we speak to thousands of people, and people go, oh my God, don't you need a diaper? No, I do that. That's what I do. And other people would be terrified of that. But there are things that I don't do because they're not like, they take enormous courage, and maybe I don't need to do them. So courage is subjective. So for me, it's always incredibly different, as in where we get to. That's subjective and real. And it's exactly the same as in it takes enormous amounts of courage. And so the thing you're going to share with me, I can judge it. The personality, the ego, can judge it and say, no big deal. But the truth is, I don't ever come at it from that. I come at it from understanding it's a huge deal for you. And I will not minimize it by going, oh, that's no big deal. That would be a terrible thing to say. But people will say that to you. It is a big deal to you until it's not.
Yeah, that sensitivity rang true throughout our conversations. I wanted to talk about the other person. What do you look for in a client? Do things, I mean, I presume a lot of them come to you saying, I'd like you to coach me, I would guess. I would guess that you also probably identify coachability in others or connection with others, but I'm not sure. Do you look for, and some probably who come to you, you probably turn away. I'm not sure. Yeah.
So I only work with at most 6 clients a year, 6 new clients a year, because they're in a 1-year contract with me. Mm-hmm. I often get people who come to me and go, well, I'll write you a check now. Don't care. That's not going to get you in. I turn people away all the time because I understand that journey is a dramatic journey. It is the quote, the hero's journey, and you will hate me at some point in time in the process of that year. but I'm not going to hate you even when you hate me. And the reason you'll hate me is because I'm willing to fight for you when you're not willing to fight for yourself. When you want to quit on you, I won't. That's when I take you on. So if I don't know that I can stand with you and I will be your champion for a year, come hell, high water, and including your ego, I will battle all those things with you until you can battle it yourself. So I choose who I'm going to work with. I choose who not to work with. There's a big commitment financially, emotionally, energetically, all of those things. But we are going to transform your way of being. Now, sometimes people's careers, they go in a completely different direction. Most times they don't. They just accelerate in an amazing and powerful way that is deeply fulfilling. And they will say to me, oh my God, I didn't expect this. I'm such a better husband, a better father, better teacher, better whatever it is, even though they're a CEO or an athlete or they're in the entertainment business. These are high level individuals, but they up level their game way beyond anything they've done. So it's high performance mentally, emotionally, and then results wise.
Yeah, it sounds very rewarding. Although you're just talking about the results, the blisters part in the middle sounds, can you share a story? I mean, no details that can't,
Sure. So I'll give you an example. So you've heard me tell my dragon metaphor, but I'll do it here so people understand. So this is the shortened version of it. There's a caterpillar climbing around on a tree with all the other caterpillars, and he's never felt quite. We'll call him Amel, and Amel has never quite felt like he fits in, but he's always tried to fit in, and he's always very friendly, but he always feels a bit odd. And one day he comes out and he notices that most of his friends have disappeared, and he looks up and he sees all these hanging pod things and thinks, what's that? And asks somebody, and they say, well, we don't know. Another morning he comes out, there's nobody. All there is the pods. And he feels deeply sad and deeply alone. It just magnifies that he is different and weird and sad. So he's very sad. And the next morning he wakes up, and as he wakes up, the sun is coming out and the pods are all bursting open. And out of them comes these beautiful hand-painted butterflies that just fill the sky. And he's in awe of the beauty and the majesty of these amazing butterflies. And he's so happy for about a second. Then deep sadness comes over him. And he feels like, oh my God, this is terrible. I really am a loser. Why didn't I go in the pods? Why didn't I transform? I'm just a loser. And he throws himself off the edge of the bridge and smashes into the water, and pieces of him are broken off, and he feels like he's going to die and he's going to drown. And with every time he hits another rock and another piece of him is broken off, and he's hoping and praying that this is a dream and he's going to wake up with his caterpillar friends hanging out, or maybe this is the transformation process and he's going to become a butterfly. But it doesn't happen. And the water keeps throwing him from one rock to another, smashing him until he lands on the beach where the ocean and the river meet. And he lands there exhausted. And as he's exhausted, a mighty thirst comes over him, and he leans over to a puddle to get a drink. And as he does, he notices a giant beast behind him. A dragon beast is behind him, and he's terrified, and he stops, doesn't move, and he notices the dragon doesn't move either. And he thinks, oh my goodness, And then he looks up and he sees a man walking towards him, and he says, oh my God, I know I'm supposed to be afraid of men, but this dragon will kill that guy. And, so now he's afraid for himself and he's afraid for the guy, but he stays still. And suddenly the man walks up with great, great prowess and without any fear of the dragon or anything, and reaches out and touches Amel. But the weird thing is, as he reaches out, you can see that he's touching the dragon. He can see his reflection in the pond, and he can see that the man is touching the dragon, but he can feel it. And he doesn't understand what's going on. And the man says to him, you were sad because you believed you were a caterpillar. And you were even more sad because you wanted to be a butterfly. And you've spent your life trying to be a caterpillar, to blend in with the caterpillars. You hoped you'd be transformed into a butterfly, but you are a dragon. And I am the master of dragons. I am the father of dragons, and I'm here to show you the way of dragons. You must breathe your fire onto the lies, but the first lies you must burn up are the ones you tell yourself. And it's that moment of facing that you are actually a dragon is terrifying, because you've tried your whole life to blend in. And as a tribal being, which is what humans are, we want to fit in. We don't want to stand out. But what we end up doing is excelling ourselves to the top of mediocrity. Nobody breaks through. Dragons break through that glass. Butterflies can't. They bounce off the top of the plexiglass in the dome of mediocrity. Dragons break through it. And it's in that moment of banging up against that. And it's terrifying, because you have to face the things that have not been feeling so good. And in that moment before it happens, we call that the soup. And the reason we call it the soup is because a caterpillar is a caterpillar. And later on it becomes a butterfly. But what is it in between? It's in the pupilla. And if you open that pupilla before it's fully developed, what you'll find inside is soup. There's no structure to it. Everything that was the butterfly, everything that was the caterpillar is dissolved. It's just soup. And when you're in the soup, you can't move. When you're a caterpillar, you can move. When you're a butterfly, you can fly. But in the soup, you can't move. You're just soup. And that's the hardest part, because you feel incapacitated. You don't know who you are. You're having an identity crisis. Hallelujah. That's fantastic. Your old identity is being made into soup, but you'll feel like, oh my God, I can't move. But that is the moment to celebrate, because your old self is dissolving. And if you look at a caterpillar that goes into pupilla before it becomes butterfly, the very last thing to fall off on a caterpillar that's in the pupilla is the head, because the head is outside when it makes that. And then the head drops off, and the next day, butterfly emerges. Isn't that fascinating? You have to dissolve, and you have to let your head fall off. Your head is the identity. Your head is everything you've attached to yourself egoically, has to fall away, and then the transformation comes.
No, you answered a different question that I asked, and on a personal level, with a PhD in physics and MBA, I mean, I'm a big fan of Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
So I'm prepared to hear stories like that. But had I not spoken to you, and people listen to the episodes I'll put the links in for the Leadership in the Environment podcast episodes where you interviewed me.
Mm-hmm.
Having gone through that, being the caterpillar in the soup, I mean, you've taken me, I'm listening to you as an interviewer, but I'm also listening to you as being in the soup. And it's taken me out of, it's forcing me to think in many ways. So I will have to go back and watch this again.
Yes.
And it's taken me enough places that one, I'm looking forward to losing the identity,
Yes.
augmenting, transforming, breaking free of the barriers, of the ceilings. And I'm going to leave it at this. I'm going to leave it there and ask, how do people contact you? How do people find out more about you?
Thank you, Joshua. I sincerely appreciate that. You can find out about me by going to dovbaron.com. That's DOVBARON.com, dovbaron.com. And you can actually write to me personally, dov@dovbaron.com. I actually do answer my own emails. And you can, if I can help you, if I can be of service to you, reach out to me. Even if I don't get to work with you privately, that's okay. I can be a resource for you, and I'm happy to do that. So you can reach out to me anytime you like. You can, of course, find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere else, YouTube, everywhere. And of course, as you know, I have two of my own podcasts, the Leadership and Loyalty podcast and Curiosity Bites. You can find out all about me in all of those places.
And I'll mention from personal experience, if you just share a little bit with him, he may find openings beyond what you expected, which is why we are here talking right now.
Yeah.
Is there anything you didn't think to ask worth bringing up, or anything you want to end with? I know a couple words you're going to end with, which say sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I am going to end with that. But what I'm going to say to you as we finish is to say this, that I would like everybody to remember that the difference between greatness and mediocrity is the willingness to step in, own, and claim a single monolithic meaning to your life. Find your dragon fire, and you will only find that when you have the courage to step into the darkness. But on the other side of that darkness is light you have never even imagined. So stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about the dragon fire within you, because it is there to burn away the lies and to give you the wings to transform the world that you serve.
Dov Baron, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, stop cloud recording.